Hello! Do you remember Back to the Future? That amazing film that made us all dream with flying cars and scooters and many more science fiction stuff. At that time, we all dreamed with that future mobility became true at some point in history. Today, however, we can start tasting how Back to the Future looks like thanks to autonomous driving, connectivity, electrification, and shared mobility. For example, did you know that in 2019, electric vehicle sales set another sales record globally, and electric vehicles became much more prominent in the public awareness in major automotive markets such as Europe? They did indeed, but the full potential of future mobility is yet to come. How is this going to happen? What is our role as citizens? How will we benefit from it? In today's video blog, we will have two very interesting discussions in two senses. On the one hand, we will deep dive more into how future mobility is taking shape and is bringing new horizons to urban mobility. And on the other hand, we will discuss from an entrepreneurship point of view how the startups are shaping the future of urban mobility. Let's start with the first part, for which I'm happy to welcome Delia Midcam and Adriana Diaz, both innovation managers at TAT Urban Mobility. Adriana, Delia, welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
To be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Delia, the first question is for you. What is future mobility and how has it evolved so far and will be evolving in the coming years?
We have experienced huge transformations last year since pandemic came, and some trends in mobility progressed in a fast-forward mode. The way we move around cities is changing, and consumers' preferences are evolving rapidly by giving more value on safety, health, and sustainability. There is a constant evolution of mobility and travel patterns based on the available transport options and the wider trend that impacts the mobility sector. And this is because of the new technologies and digitalization which have disrupted the urban mobility, creating new services and expanding transport in new areas. The disruption is ongoing and the innovation happens across the sector. This, for example, through the increased prevalence of machine learning and artificial intelligence, blockchain, 5G, and the Internet of Things. These technologies have enabled the creation and adoption of new mobility services. For example, mobility as a service, shared micro-mobility, for example, the e-bikes, e-scooters, mopeds, but also think about autonomous driving and urban air mobility. How these new services and transport mode will impact our urban lives and how the cities and local authorities will react to that and adopt them, this is future mobility about. If we think about the evolution of mobility, how future mobility will look like in the coming years, we need to take into consideration the mobility strategy of the EU, published last year in December, aiming for green, smart and affordable mobility. There it's mentioned the autonomous driving, for example, which is aimed in 2030 to be largely deployed in Europe. This is just 9 years away from now, which means that the development of mobility will happen in a very fast mode.
Adriana, we just heard from Delia. A lot has been done, but there is a lot more yet to come, which is certainly exciting. Tell us, what are the latest trends of future mobility and how it will impact citizens' lives?
I think the future of mobility will be marked by two main trends: decarbonization and digitalization. and they are not disconnected from each other. Digitalization can give a strong push to the decarbonization of our cities. Think of how energy demands from different sectors can be met by green energy when we use smart balancing. If we have more e-mobility in our cities, that means that the transport sector will play an ever more important role in this aspect. Another area in which digitalization can change our mobility experience is that of connected vehicles and smart infrastructure. So we already have many connected vehicles, and we expect to see more and more of them in the future. This means that the vehicles, the road users, and the infrastructure communicate with each other, making the traffic more efficient, reducing the time we spend commuting, or simply making it more comfortable for us to move around. But one aspect that is very important is that these technologies can reduce human errors and make moving around more safe for us. We need to prepare our infrastructures for connected vehicles, and this is going to require an update of our regulatory and legal frameworks and a close collaboration between public and private parties, also to make the financing of these solutions a possibility.
Okay, so it's very thrilling to see how all those science fiction things we've seen for over years and years in films are becoming real nowadays. Reaching this point of the discussion and talking about future, we can't forget a very important and key player in all this, artificial intelligence. Let's have a look into what artificial intelligence can bring to urban mobility.
AI is already being used across numerous transport applications, and its role will only continue to grow, creating a need for new business models, which can create better individual experiences from planning to payment and the journey itself. The future vision for intelligent urban mobility is centered around smarter decision-making based on real-time information and network optimization using existing infrastructure. How will AI impact passenger transportation? In the future, vehicles will be able to operate without human involvement, making travel more responsive and safer. AI-enabled shared autonomous vehicles will help EU citizens avoid 88 billion hours per year stuck in traffic. How can AI improve logistics? The robotization of logistics will decrease costs, downtime, and capital-intensive fixed infrastructure by predicting the demand of goods and maintenance issues and using this to optimize route planning and delivery scheduling, as well as enable unmanned last-mile delivery vehicles or AI-powered drone taxis. How can AI impact traffic management? Traffic management operations and flow control can be radically altered by AI to enable on-demand services and better shared mobility services via superior forecasting and instantaneous reaction to events, hazards, or weather. How will insurances be impacted by AI? New tailored insurance products, such as pay-as-you-drive, based on driver patterns and behaviors, will help lower costs. Autonomous bicycles can be designed to never run a red light and be aware of blindside objects, reducing injuries and fatalities, as well as costs for motor insurance, health provision, and social security. AI can contribute to better life quality for citizens by making transport safer, greener, more convenient, and affordable.
Delia, Adriana, as we just witnessed in the video, there is a lot of potential in what artificial intelligence can bring to urban mobility and to future mobility. In your view, what could we expect in this sense in the coming years?
I will answer your question by giving an example of a project being now implemented under the current innovation program. AI Travel is an artificial intelligence-powered proactive travel assistant. This solution encourages people, the travelers, the users, to share their personal preferences when moving within the cities and combines this subjective data with available objective data from mobility services and environment in order to deliver personalized suggestions on travel alternatives based on their needs and preferences. Besides, it encourages and it promotes positive behavior change through the innovative incentives, so promoting the well-being of the travelers. So actually we use artificial intelligence to recognize patterns in order to improve the policies or the available mobility services.
Indeed, we all expect general improvements in most sectors from AI applications and in the field of urban mobility in the coming years. So, with more accurate data being collected as we move from one place to the other or as goods are transported from A to B, more accurate and better AI techniques and applications can be deployed to use this information. They can improve traffic flows, they can make the infrastructures safe, or they can maintain and lead to new services for our citizens. Currently, there are three dominant policy trends in artificial intelligence: the Chinese, the American, and the European one. They are all different about the way that they approach the development and deployment of AI applications. In the first case, government control and oversight raise concerns. Will monitoring our citizens mean that they have different access to mobility services? In the second case, the private sector plays a more important role, and as they accumulate data, massive amounts of data, they become more competitive. The issue there is about consent and privacy, especially because the motivation behind the design is a commercial one. The focus in Europe is on human-centered, trustworthy artificial intelligence, and this is great news for us as European citizens. The tension we find there is that perhaps strict regulation may slow down the development and deployment of these technologies, particularly by small and medium enterprises. Confidence and trust are very important, but we need to remain competitive, and this means being faster to market.
Indeed, that was very nice to have this conversation with you, to hear all these new insights and views on what future mobility can bring to urban mobility in our daily routine. So, Adriana Diaz and Delia Mitka, Innovation Managers for the EIT Urban Mobility, thank you very much for your time and for your very interesting insights.
Thank you, Jezebel. In the end, I would like to encourage everyone to keep an eye on the next trends on mobility and make sure that we all together use those transport modes having the least impact on the sustainability of our lives.
So that was indeed very nice to hear these new trends in future mobility. But let's now move to the second part of our video blog. For that, I would like to welcome our business creation manager, Johannes Kirchner. Johannes, welcome.
Hi, Jezebel. Good to see you.
Johannes, talking about future mobility also means talking about those who will be making this happen. In our portfolio of startups, we have very good representatives of startups working in the sector of future mobility. Johannes, tell us, how are our startups contributing to future mobility?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And indeed, startups play and will continue to play a vital role in shaping and also co-creating the future of our mobility landscape. Simply due to the fact that they rethink what is already there, they try, they test, they pilot, and apparently often they do fail with their new ideas and solutions. But most importantly to mention is that they take risk and they challenge the status quo. Let me give you some examples of the startups that we have supported and are in our programs at the moment. First of all, we have D3 Technologies, a Munich-based company that is focusing on the urban air mobility sector. And what they are pioneering is a management control system that will soon allow all of us to fly safely in the upper space, on drones, on flying taxis, doesn't matter. So what they did was to enter a market that does yet not even exist, which takes a lot of courage and also a lot of risk. On the other hand, we also see a lot of data-driven mobility companies that collect a massive amount of data set and organize and structure it, and then makes it accessible for cities to use and structure their public space in a more sorted and effective and sustainable way. Others, like Ellen Road from Sweden, they focus on the charging infrastructure of the future. And they are not only focusing on station-based charging where you plug and play your electric vehicle, they focus on a solution that lets your electric vehicle, doesn't matter if it's a car or a bike, charge while it is on the road. So it's driving and charging at the same time, which is extremely exciting. So all of these startups, and I could tell you of many more, are combining the fact that they have an entrepreneurial spirit, they challenge the status quo, and they will be definitely at the core of the future of mobility.
Okay, that sounds like a very good social contribution from the startups we are supporting at the IIT Urban Mobility. But Johannes, tell us more. Bringing this new technology to citizens' lives means what? How will citizens benefit from this?
That's a really good question, and they will benefit in many ways. In the end, however, we will not only see flying taxis, self-driving cars, or us speeding up in hyperloops to go to the next city. So what we will see is a mobility mix that is already there, but it will be more sustainable, more enjoyable, more affordable, and even smarter than we have it today. And not to forget about cycling or walking, which will remain as the most sustainable way of moving around town today and in the future. On top of that, we see a lot of EU initiatives and also on national level to support, motivate all citizens to make use of these new, more sustainable forms of mobility. Some of them even subsidize more sustainable future mobility opportunities. So exciting times ahead, and makes a lot of fun to work with these young entrepreneurs.
So it's indeed, like I said before, and like you're mentioning right now when you're explaining all those benefits for our citizens' lives, very nice to see we're supporting, and the startups we're supporting are contributing to bring such a positive impact to our citizens' lives, who are in the end those for whom we are working. So Johannes Kirchner, thank you very much for your time with us, and please keep up the good work at Business Creation Program at the IIT Urban Mobility.
Thank you, Isabel. See you.
You see how exciting future mobility is. The startups Johannes presented were supported by our acceleration program. Now, imagine you're a startup working in urban mobility. If you want to benefit from that program, remember that the call for applications for the Business Creation Acceleration Program is open until 9th of May. So, go to the link below and apply now. This is an amazing opportunity for you to bring your startup to the next level. To close this video blog, we have a very interesting announcement we want to make. And for this, I will give the floor to Frederick Hanel, Director of Business Creation at the IIT Urban Mobility. Frederick, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Frederick Hanel, the Business Creation Director at EIT Urban Mobility. I'm really excited to announce that on the 22nd of June, 2021, we will host the first EIT Urban Mobility Accelerator Pitch Awards. You'll see pitches from 25 startups in our 5 pan-European acceleration programs. They represent the most innovative, promising startups within the urban mobility industry. Our regional business creation managers will later introduce you to each of the startups, and the pitching competition will be broadcasted online from our headquarters in Barcelona and our innovation hubs in Copenhagen, Helmond, Munich, and Prague. Really, really looking forward to the pitches, and make sure to reserve June the 22nd. See you there.
So you heard it, save the date, 22nd of June. And stay tuned, next month will be the turn for public realm. See you soon.